When Liam slammed the $50,000 bribe onto the polished boardroom table, blood pounding in his ears as 12 executives stared in stunned silence, he knew his choice would either save his dying daughter or destroy them both. The CEO's eyes locked with his, her icy composure cracking just enough for him to see something unexpected beneath recognition, fear, and the first dangerous spark of an alliance that would tear a billion-dollar conspiracy wide open. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. The board members of Langford Industries shifted uncomfortably in their leather chairs as Liam Byrne stood his ground, the crisp $50 bill held between his calloused fingers like evidence at a crime scene. The janitor's blue uniform was a stark contrast against the polished elegance of the 50th floor conference room, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a god's-eye view of the city below. "I don't want your money, Ms. Langford," Liam said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hand. "What I want is the truth." Aveline Langford, CEO of the Pharmaceutical giant, maintained her composure, though a muscle twitched at her jawline. The expensive suit she wore seemed suddenly like armor as she stared down this unexpected intruder who had somehow bypassed every layer of security to interrupt the most important board meeting of the quarter. "Mr. Byrne, was it?" she said, her voice arctic. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Security will escort you out, and we can discuss whatever concerns you have through the proper channels." Liam didn't move. He placed the bill on the obsidian conference table where it lay like a gauntlet thrown in medieval challenge. $50,000. That's what your head of research offered me this morning to keep quiet about what I found in the lab waste disposal. His gaze swept the room, taking in the 12 board members, their expressions ranging from outrage to discomfort to calculated neutrality. "I'm guessing none of you knew about that." A murmur rippled around the table. Richard Graves, Aveline's chief of security, moved toward Liam with practiced efficiency, but Aveline raised her hand, stopping him with a gesture. "Wait," she said, her eyes never leaving Liam's face. Something in his unwavering gaze had triggered her instincts. The same instincts that had built a pharmaceutical empire from the rubble of her father's failed research facility. "Everyone out, except you, Mr. Byrne." The board members exchanged glances. Harrison Wells, the CFO, cleared his throat. "Aveline protocol dictates I set out," she repeated, her tone making it clear there would be no further discussion. The room emptied reluctantly, the board members filing past Liam with curious stares. Only Graves hesitated at the door. "Ma'am, I strongly advise against. It's fine, Richard. Wait outside." When the heavy door closed, leaving them alone in the glass-walled sanctuary, Aveline gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit, please." Liam remained standing, his work-roughened hands resting on the back of the chair. "My daughter Maya has neurosynaptic decay syndrome," he said without preamble. "She's 7 years old. Her hands have started to shake so badly she can't hold a crayon anymore. The doctors say she has maybe a year before the deterioration reaches her brainstem." Aveline's expression remained unreadable, but something flickered in her eyes, recognition perhaps, or calculation. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Byrne, but I fail to see what this has to do with Langford Industries, or why my head of research would offer you money. 3 weeks ago, I was emptying the biohazard bins from Lab 7. One of the bags split open. Inside were shredded documents." Liam's voice remained steady, though the memory made his skin crawl, the moment that had set everything in motion. "I'm thorough, Ms. Langford. I taped those fragments back together. Single quotes now." Aveline's perfect composure cracked just slightly. She sat straighter, her fingers tensing on the armrests of her chair. "The Langford Initiative," Liam continued. "Your company's secret clinical trial for NDS. You've been running it for 16 months, off the books. The documents showed that the treatment doesn't work. In fact, it accelerates the disease progression by 70%. But Dr. Finch has been falsifying the data, showing improvement where there's only decline." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "You're planning to announce a breakthrough treatment next quarter, a treatment that will kill children like my Maya." Aveline stood now, moving to the window with the careful deliberation of someone buying time. The late afternoon sun cast her silhouette in sharp relief against the panoramic view. "These are serious accusations, Mr. Byrne. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I have the reconstructed documents," he said, "and I have this." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small glass vial with an amber liquid. "I took a sample from the lab's waste disposal. It's the compound you're using in the trial. I had it independently tested." "You stole proprietary material from my company?" Her voice was dangerously soft. "To save my daughter's life, and the lives of every other child with NDS." Liam set the vial on the table next to the $50 bill. "This morning, Dr. Finch caught me leaving the testing facility. He offered me $50,000 to forget what I saw. He said a janitor's daughter wasn't worth derailing a billion-dollar drug launch." The silence that followed was absolute. The room seemed to hold its breath as Aveline turned from the window, her face now in shadow. "My brother Kellen has NDS," she said finally, the words falling into the quiet like stones into still water. "That's not public knowledge. He was diagnosed 3 years ago. He's the reason I initiated the Langford Initiative." Liam felt the ground shift beneath him. This wasn't the response he had expected. Then you're being deceived too, he said, gentler now. The treatment is killing patients, not saving them. Your own brother could be at risk. Aveline moved to the table with swift, decisive steps. She pressed the intercom. Richard, I need Dr. Alistair Finch in this room immediately. Use whatever means necessary. She released the button and met Liam's gaze. For the first time, he saw something other than corporate coldness in her eyes. There was fear there, and a smoldering anger. I've invested $2 billion in this research, she said. My brother's time is running out. If what you're saying is true, ... She didn't finish the sentence, but her hand closed around the vial, knuckles widening. My daughter's time is running out too, Liam said quietly. That's why I couldn't take the money. That's why I'm here. The door burst open, and Graves entered with Dr. Finch, whose usual polished demeanor had given way to a sheen of sweat and darting eyes. Aveline, he began, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. There seems to be some confusion, is it true? She cut him off, holding up the vial. Is the Langford Initiative treatment failing? Are you falsifying results? Finch's eyes flicked to Liam with naked hatred. You can't possibly believe the accusations of a janitor over the documented research of an entire scientific team. Answer the question, Alistair. Her voice was like a whip. The research is ... complex. All new treatments have setbacks. Neurosynaptic decay syndrome affects fewer than 2,000 people worldwide. Liam interjected. My daughter's one of them. I've read every published study. I know exactly what the progression looks like. The charts I found in those shredded documents showed accelerated deterioration, not improvement. Finch's face contorted. You think you understand medical research because you've read a few studies? You're nothing but a glorified garbage collector. Richard, Aveline said quietly. Please escort Dr. Finch to my office and ensure he remains there. As Graves led the protesting doctor away, Aveline sank into her chair, suddenly looking exhausted. The carefully constructed facade of the powerful CEO had crumbled, revealing the sister of a dying man beneath. $50,000, she said almost to herself, looking at the bill still lying on the table. He thought he could buy silence that cheaply when billions are at stake. She looked up at Liam. I need to see everything you found. I have it all at home. Everything I've pieced together. Aveline nodded, decision crystallizing in her eyes. Then that's where we're going. She stood, gathering her composure around her like a cloak. I'm calling an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. I want you there, Mr. Byrne. Why would you want a janitor at your board meeting? Because, she said, picking up the $50 bill and pressing it back into his hand. A man who refuses a bribe to protect children he's never met is exactly the kind of person I need beside me when I tell 12 of the most powerful people in the pharmaceutical industry that we've been building our future on a lie. The weight of her words hung in the air between them. Liam thought of Maya, of her trusting eyes and trembling hands. He thought of the thousands of hours he'd spent mopping floors and emptying trash in a building where decisions about his daughter's life were made in rooms he was only allowed to clean. I'll be there, he said, but I'm not doing it for you or your company. I'm doing it for Maya and for your brother. Aveline's eyes. And for the first time there was a glimmer of something like respect in them. Then we understand each other, she said, because I'm not doing this for Langford Industries either. Some things matter more than money, Mr. Byrne, even to people like me. As they left the conference room together, an unlikely alliance forged in the crucible of shared pain. Neither of them noticed the security camera that had captured their entire conversation, or the fact that the boardroom's audio feed had never been disconnected when the members left. In the adjoining room, 12 of the most powerful people in the pharmaceutical world sat in stunned silence, tears streaming down more than one face as they listened to the truth that would change everything. The Blacktown car glided through evening traffic, its tinted windows creating a barrier between the chaos of the city and the tense silence inside. Liam sat uncomfortably on the buttery leather seat, hyper-aware of the contrast between his janitor's uniform and the luxury surrounding him. Across from him, Aveline Langford stared at her tablet, scrolling through files with swift, agitated movements. My apartment's not what you're used to, Liam said finally, breaking the silence as they turned into his neighborhood, where aging brick buildings stood shoulder to shoulder like weary soldiers. Aveline looked up, her gaze direct. I grew up in a place not much different from this, she said. Before Langford Industries, before all of it. My father was a research assistant living on grants and dreams. The car pulled to a stop outside Liam's building. Through the window, he could see Mrs. Henderson, his elderly neighbor, watching from her first-floor window. She waved, curiosity evident in her expression at the sight of the luxury vehicle. Maya stays with her after school, Liam explained as they exited the car. Mrs. Henderson has been a godsend since my wife died. Something softened in Aveline's expression. How long ago? 3 years. Cancer. Fast and merciless. He led the way into the building, conscious of Aveline's calculating gaze, taking in every detail, the scuffed hallway floors, the flickering fluorescent light, the faint smell of someone's dinner cooking. Maya doesn't know I'm investigating Langford, he continued as they climbed the stairs. She thinks I'm just a janitor, not ... single quotes. He paused, searching for the word. A whistleblower? Aveline supplied, her heels clicking sharply on the stairs. I was going to say troublemaker, Liam replied with a grim smile. When they reached the 3rd floor, the door to 3B swung open before Liam could insert his key. Maya stood there, her small frame illuminated by the apartment's warm light. Her dark curls were caught up in mismatched barrettes, and her smile lit up her face despite the slight tremor in her raised hand. Daddy, "You're home early." She launched herself into his arms, and Liam caught her with practiced ease, the weight of her momentarily washing away the day's tension. "Hey, sweet pea." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "I brought someone from work with me. This is Ems." Langford. Maya peered around his shoulder, suddenly shy. "Hello," she said politely. Aveline, who had commanded boardrooms and intimidated pharmaceutical giants, seemed momentarily wrong-footed in the presence of the child. "Hello, Maya," she said, her voice softening to a register Liam hadn't heard before. Mrs. Henderson appeared behind Maya, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "You're home early, dear. Everything all right at work?" The question hung awkwardly in the air. "Everything's fine," Liam answered with forced lightness. "Miss Langford and I have some work to discuss. Would you mind if Maya stayed with you a bit longer?" Mrs. Henderson's eyes, sharp despite her 70-plus years, took in Aveline's expensive suit and commanding presence. "Of course not. Maya and I were just about to start our art project, weren't we, sweetheart?" Maya's eyes lit up. "We're making a castle, with a moat and everything." Her small hands gestured excitedly, the tremor momentarily more pronounced with her enthusiasm. Aveline's gaze fixed on the trembling hands, and Liam saw recognition flash in her eyes. The same tremor she'd likely witnessed in her brother. "That sounds wonderful," Aveline said, her voice gentle. "Perhaps you can show me when it's finished." Maya nodded eagerly. "I'll make it super good." After another hug and promises of bedtime stories later, Maya left with Mrs. Henderson. As the door closed behind them, the apartment felt suddenly smaller with Aveline's presence filling the modest space. She stood in the center of the living room, taking in the mismatched furniture, the wall covered with Maya's artwork, the medical textbooks stacked neatly on a side table. "You've been studying," she observed, touching the cover of a neurological journal. "Since her diagnosis," Liam confirmed, moving to a closet where he retrieved a cardboard box. "I work nights at Langford because the hospital where they treat Maya is right across the street. I spend my breaks there reading everything I can find on NDS." He placed the box on the coffee table and removed the lid. Inside were hundreds of meticulously reassembled paper fragments, taped together like a grotesque puzzle. He'd organized them into clear plastic sheets, preserving the reconstructed documents. "This is everything I found," he said, stepping back as Aveline approached the box. She lifted the first sheet, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the fragmented content. It was a clinical trial report showing patient decline rates, numbers that directly contradicted the glowing progress reports that had been presented to her and the board. "When did you find these?" she asked, her voice tight. 3 weeks ago. I've been piecing them together every night after Maya falls asleep." Aveline moved through the documents with ruthless efficiency, her corporate mask slipping as the evidence mounted. Trial participants showing rapid deterioration. Internal memos discussing ways to reframe negative outcomes. Financial projections for a drug that executives knew would fail. "This can't be happening," she whispered, sinking onto Liam's worn couch. "I've had a team of 20 scientists working on this treatment for over 2 years. Not all of them could have been involved in the deception," Liam said, sitting across from her. "The documents mention a core group, Finch, Vance, and someone referred to only as the director." Aveline's head snapped up. "Harrison Wells. He's our CFO, and he's been pushing to accelerate the trial timeline." Her hands tightened on the documents. "My own board. My own company. Why would they do this? Why falsify results for a treatment that hurts patients? Money," Aveline said bitterly. "And the pharmaceutical industry is built on blockbuster drugs. Even a treatment for a rare condition like NDS could be worth billions if it's patented and priced right. And if it fails, ... single quotes." She looked around the modest apartment, at the visible signs of Liam's struggle to make ends meet while caring for a sick child. "If it fails, investors lose confidence, stock prices tumble, executives lose bonuses. So they'd rather sell a poison than admit failure," Liam said, the words tasting like ash. Aveline stood abruptly, pacing the small living room. "I need copies of everything. I need to get my brother's medical files. I need to..." She stopped, pressing her fingers to her temples. "What I need is to not make this worse." Liam watched her, seeing the corporate tactician reclaim control from the shocked sister. "What's your plan?" "First, damage control. We quarantine the existing treatment stocks. Then we review every piece of data from the trial. The real data, not what Finch has been feeding us." She turned to him, her gaze intense. "Then we go after them. All of them. With what authority? If your CFO and head researcher are involved, they could destroy evidence the moment they suspect. They won't suspect anything until it's too late," Aveline said, her voice hardening. "We have one advantage they don't know about." "What's that?" "You," she said simply. "The invisible man, the janitor no one notices. You've been gathering evidence for weeks without raising alarms. You can continue to be our eyes inside?" "You want me to spy for you?" Liam asked incredulously. "I want you to help me save my brother," she corrected. "And your daughter." The weight of those words hung in the air between them. Before Liam could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Henderson. Maya asking for her nighttime meds. "Tremors worse tonight." Fear flashed across his face as he read the message. "I have to go check on Maya. Is it getting worse?" Aveline asked quietly. "Each week," Liam confirmed, his voice strained. "The progression is accelerating, just like the documents predicted." Aveline's expression hardened with resolve. "Then we don't have time to waste. While you check on Maya, I'll have my driver bring secure equipment so we can document everything properly." When Liam returned 30 minutes later, Having settled Maya with her medication, he found his living room transformed into a makeshift command center. Aveline had shed her suit jacket, rolled up her sleeves, and was photographing each reconstructed document with a high-resolution scanner. "Maya, okay?" she asked without looking up. "Stable for now," he replied, surprised by her efficiency. "But the new medications aren't helping much." Aveline nodded grimly. "We need to work fast. The board meeting is at 9 tomorrow morning. By then I need irrefutable evidence and a plan to contain this without sending Langford's stock into freefall." "Why do you care about the stock price if they're killing patients?" Liam asked sharply. Aveline finally looked up, her eyes meeting his. "Because Langford Industries funds research for dozens of other life-saving treatments. If it collapses, thousands of patients lose their only hope. Sometimes being responsible means finding the least destructive path forward." Liam considered this, seeing the burden of leadership she carried. He had the luxury of single-minded focus on his daughter. She had to consider a complex web of consequences. "What exactly do you need me to do?" he asked finally. "Tomorrow morning you'll do your regular rounds in the research wing as if nothing has changed, but I need you to place these." She showed him what looked like ordinary USB thumb drives. "They'll clone the data from any computer they're plugged into. Focus on Dr. Vance's workstation. He's the data analyst. He'll have the raw trial results." Liam took one of the devices, turning it over in his hand. "And what will you be doing while I'm playing spy?" Keeping the board distracted, she said with a grim smile, "I've called an emergency meeting to discuss a completely fabricated production issue at our Singapore facility. It should keep everyone occupied, especially Harrison." As they worked through the night, cataloging evidence and mapping out their strategy, the unlikely alliance between the janitor and the CEO solidified into something neither had expected: mutual respect. Around 3 a.m., as Liam poured them both another cup of coffee, he asked the question that had been nagging at him. "Why did you believe me? In that boardroom, why didn't you just have security throw me out?" Aveline paused, considering her answer carefully. "Because you weren't afraid," she said finally. "Not of me, not of Finch, not of the consequences. The only thing you were afraid of was failing your daughter." She looked down at the document spread across the table. "That kind of fear. It doesn't lie." Their eyes met across the small kitchen, and for a moment they were just two people fighting for family. The vast gulf between their worlds momentarily bridged by a shared enemy and a common fear. "Get some rest," Aveline said, breaking the moment. "Tomorrow we go to war." Dawn broke over the city, painting the skyline in hues of gold and amber. Liam moved mechanically through his morning routine, his mind racing despite the mere 3 hours of sleep he'd managed to get. Maya was still sleeping when he peeked into her room. The new medication often made her drowsy in the morning. He stood in her doorway longer than usual, watching the gentle rise and fall of her chest. The stuffed giraffe clutched tightly in her small arms. The tremor in her hands was visible even in sleep, a constant reminder of the clock ticking down. Mrs. Henderson arrived at 6:30. As she did every morning, her familiar knock soft against the apartment door. "You look terrible," she observed bluntly as Liam let her in. "Rough night?" "Something like that," he replied, gathering his things. "Maya's still asleep." "The new medication." "I know the drill, dear," Mrs. Henderson said kindly. "You go do what you need to do. We'll be fine here, Dad." He hesitated at the door. "If anything happens, I have your number on speed dial and Doctor Ramirez's office number posted on the fridge." She shut him gently. "Go. The world doesn't stop because we wish it would." 30 minutes later, Liam was pushing his janitorial cart through the gleaming lobby of Langford Industries, nodding at the security guards who barely glanced his way. He was, as Aveline had said, the invisible man, part of the building's architecture rather than a person worthy of attention. The weight of the USB drives in his pocket felt like lead as he made his way to the research wing on the 42nd floor. Aveline's instructions had been precise. Dr. Corbin Vance always arrived at 7:30 and left his office for the daily research briefing at 8:15. Liam would have a narrow window to access his computer. As he pushed his cart past the security desk, his employee badge scanning automatically, he forced himself to maintain the same unhurried pace he'd used every day for the past 3 years. Just another morning, just another shift, just another invisible man doing invisible work. The elevator carried him upward, and with each passing floor, he felt the pressure mounting. If he was caught, he'd lose everything: his job, his access to the medical center across the street where Maya was treated, possibly even his freedom if they decided to press charges. The stakes couldn't be higher. When the doors opened on the 42nd floor, the research wing was already humming with activity. Lab techs in white coats moved purposefully between stations. The morning shift was starting, minds focused on the complex work of developing pharmaceuticals that could save lives, or, as Liam now knew, sometimes end them. He began his routine, emptying trash bins, wiping down surfaces, mopping floor. His path took him systematically closer to Dr. Vance's office, a glass-walled space at the far end of the wing. Through the transparent walls, he could see the thin, gray-haired man hunched over his keyboard, glasses perched on the end of his nose. 7:58 a.m. The morning briefing would begin soon. Liam positioned himself outside the restroom, which gave him a clear view of Vance's office while appearing to be busy with legitimate work. At 8:12, Vance stood, gathered a tablet and some papers, and left his office, heading toward the conference room where the daily briefing was held. Liam's heart hammered in his chest as he pushed his cart toward the now empty office. He'd cleaned these rooms 1,000 times before. To anyone watching, this was just part of his normal routine. He entered Vance's office, closed the door behind him, and began wiping down surfaces, moving systematically closer to the computer. The screen was locked, but the desktop unit was still running. Liam knelt down as if to empty the trash bin and, shielded from view by the desk, inserted one of Aveline's USB drives into the back of the computer. A small green light blinked on the device, indicating it was working. 3 minutes. Aveline had told him that's how long it would take the device to clone and compress the data. 3 minutes that felt like 3 hours as Liam methodically cleaned the office, his senses hyper-elevate to every sound in the corridor outside. When the green light switched to steady blue, he removed the device and slipped it back into his pocket. 1 down, 2 to go. Meanwhile, 45 floors above, Aveline Langford stood at the head of the conference table, addressing her board with the commanding presence that had made her one of the most feared CEOs in the pharmaceutical industry. Dark circles under her eyes were the only evidence of her sleepless night, expertly concealed beneath makeup. The Singapore production issue is costing us approximately $3 million per day, she stated, gesturing to the projection on the screen behind her. If we don't resolve it within the week, we're looking at significant delays to our Q3 production schedule. Harrison Wells, the CFO, leaned forward, his expensive suit perfectly tailored to his substantial frame. These projections seem excessively pessimistic, Aveline. The Bangkok facility can pick up some of the slack. Aveline met his gaze steadily. This man, who she'd trusted with the company's finances for 6 years, who'd been her father's friend before that, might be the director mentioned in Liam's documents. The thought made her stomach turn. Bangkok is already at capacity with the Nurofen production, she countered smoothly. That's why I've called this emergency meeting. We need solutions, not complaints about my projections. As the discussion continued, Aveline divided her attention between the board meeting and the secure tablet hidden beneath the table, which displayed Liam's progress through the research wing in real time via the building's security cameras. He was now moving toward Dr. Finch's office, his timing impeccable as Finch had been summoned to the company's legal department for what he believed was a routine patent discussion. The board members argued about resource allocation, completely unaware of the real emergency unfolding beneath their feet. Dr. Alistair. Finch sat rigidly in the leather chair across from Patricia Winters, Langford's head legal counsel. His perfectly groomed appearance, crisp white shirt, silk tie, designer glasses did little to mask his discomfort. I don't understand why we need to review the patent applications again, he said, his fingers drumming impatiently on the armrest. We've already submitted the primary documentation. Patricia smiled thinly. Just routine due diligence, Alistair. After yesterday's incident with the janitor, Ms. Langford wants to ensure all our paperwork is airtight. She pushed a stack of forms across the desk. We'll need to go through each of these in detail. Finch's eyes narrowed at the mention of Liam. That situation has been handled, has it? Patricia asked mildly, though her eyes were sharp. Because Ms. Langford seemed quite disturbed by the encounter. Aveline has always been overly emotional when it comes to research related to her brother's condition, Finch said dismissively. The janitor made some wild accusations based on his own misunderstanding of complex medical data. It's hardly worth discussing. Patricia made a non-committal sound and opened the first folder. Let's start with the baseline efficacy documentation. Goes back in the research wing. Liam had successfully deployed the second USB device in Dr. Finch's computer and was now facing his most difficult target, the secure server room. According to Aveline, this room contained backup drives of all research data, including, potentially, the original unaltered trial results. Unlike the offices, the server room required keycard access. Liam had cleaning authorization, but his entry would be logged in the security system. If anyone was monitoring closely, it would raise immediate red flags for him to enter during active work hours rather than during his usual evening shift. He pushed his cart toward the server room, heart pounding so loudly he was certain everyone could hear it. Just as he reached for his keycard, a voice called out behind him, "Hey, what are you doing?" Liam froze, then slowly turned to face a young lab tech he recognized but had never spoken to. "Just need to clean up a spill," he said, gesturing vaguely with his mop. The tech frowned. "In the server room? During work hours?" "Got a call from facilities," Liam improvised. "Something about condensation from the cooling system. They're worried about water damage to the equipment." The tech's frown deepened. "That's weird. Nobody told me about any maintenance issues." "Above my pay grade," Liam said with a self-deprecating shrug. "They just tell me where to mop." A tense moment passed as the tech seemed to consider whether this was worth pursuing. Finally, he shrugged. "Whatever. Just be careful in there. Those servers cost more than both of us will make in our lifetime." As the tech walked away, Liam exhaled shakily. He swiped his card, the door unlocked with a soft click, and he entered the frigid, humming sanctuary of the server room. In the boardroom, Aveline watched the small dot representing Liam move into the server room on her hidden tablet. She felt a surge of anxiety. That room was monitored more closely than any other in the building. She needed to buy him more time. Before we conclude, she said, interrupting Harrison mid-sentence about cost projection. There's one more issue we need to discuss. She paused, ensuring she had everyone's attention. The Langford Initiative. The room went silent. The private research project dedicated to finding a cure for NDS and name, after her brother, was rarely discussed in full board meetings due to its special status. What about it? Harrison asked, his voice carefully neutral. I'd like a comprehensive update, Aveline said, her eyes moving around the table, watching for reactions. My brother's condition has deteriorated significantly in the past month, and I want to know exactly where we stand with the treatment protocol. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Eliza Chun, the head of regulatory affairs, cleared her throat. Aveline, perhaps this discussion would be better suited for a private session with the core research team. The Langford Initiative has always operated with a certain level of discretion. And why is that, Eliza? Aveline asked, her voice deceptively gentle. Why does a potentially groundbreaking treatment for a fatal condition require such extraordinary secrecy? Harrison intervened smoothly. It's simply to protect the intellectual property until we're ready for clinical trials. Standard procedure for high-value research. Aveline held his gaze, searching for signs of deception. Is it? Because I was under the impression we were already in clinical trials. A flicker of alarm passed over Harrison's face before he regained his composure. Preliminary testing only. Nothing that would require regulatory disclosure yet. I see, Aveline said, letting the tension stretch. On her tablet, she could see that Liam had successfully deployed the final USB device and was now exiting the server room. Well, I expect a full briefing on my desk by the end of the day. Every piece of data, every test result. My brother's life depends on this research, and I won't be kept in the dark any longer. The meeting adjourned with an undercurrent of tension. As the board members filed out, Harrison lingered. Aveline, he said quietly when they were alone, is everything all right? You seem distracted today. She met his concerned gaze with a practiced smile, just worried about Kellen. And now, this Singapore situation? He nodded sympathetically. Don't worry about Singapore. I'll handle it personally. You focus on your brother. As he left, Aveline felt a chill run down her spine. His concern seemed genuine, which made it all the more disturbing if he was indeed involved in the deception. How deep did the lies go? Who could she truly trust? Her phone vibrated with a text from Liam. Package delivered. All three. The first phase was complete. They had the data. Now they just had to survive long enough. The Langford Industries private research facility occupied a nondescript building 10 miles outside the city. Unlike the gleaming corporate headquarters with its imposing glass facade, this structure was deliberately unremarkable, a place designed to be forgotten, to blend into the landscape of industrial parks and warehouses that surrounded it. It was here, in a secluded laboratory on the building's lower level, that Kellen Langford lay connected to a web of monitors and 4 lines. His once vibrant frame now gaunt and still. Only the steady beep of the heart monitor confirmed that life still clung to his wasting body. Aveline sat beside her brother's bed, her corporate armor discarded, replaced by the simple vulnerability of a sister watching her only remaining family slip away. She held his hand, skeletal now, with the same tremor that afflicted Maya Byrne, and spoke softly about nothing in particular. The weather, a book she'd read, anything but the truth that pressed down upon her like a physical weight. I found something, Kellen, she finally whispered, leaning close to his ear. Something terrible, but I'm going to fix it. I promise. His eyelids fluttered but didn't open. The doctors had increased his sedation after the last scene, keeping him in a twilight state that they claimed was more comfortable. Aveline wasn't sure she believed them anymore. The door opened behind her and Dogger Finch entered, his lab coat pristine, his smile practiced. Ms. Langford, I didn't expect to see you here today. His voice was smooth, professional, the same voice that had promised her miracles for 2 years while apparently delivering poison. Aveline carefully composed her features before turning to face him. I needed to see him. The board meeting this morning. It made me realize how little time we might have left. Finch approached the bed, checking the monitors with clinical detachment. Your concern is understandable, but I assure you, the treatment is progressing exactly as anticipated. The words, so similar to the ones he'd used countless times before, now carried a sinister double meaning that made Aveline's skin crawl. She watched him adjust Kellen's IV line, wondering if he was administering medicine or venom. When will he wake up? She asked, forcing her voice to remain steady. The sedation is necessary right now, Finch replied. The neural reconditioning phase is delicate. Consciousness could interfere with the process. Lies. All lies. Aveline nodded as if this made perfect sense, while inside her mind raced. How long had Kellen been kept sedated to hide the deterioration of his condition? How much damage had already been done? I understand, she said. I have meetings this afternoon, but I'll be back this evening, of course. Finch smiled. We're all doing everything we can for Kellen. He's our priority. As Aveline left the facility, each step away from her brother feeling like a betrayal, her phone buzzed with a text from Liam. Data decrypted. You need to see this now. Across town, in a small anonymous hotel room paid for in cash. Liam hunched over a laptop that Aveline's security team had provided. one untraceable to Langford Industries. The data from the 3 USB drives was displayed across multiple windows, a damning digital puzzle now fully assembled. The door opened, and Aveline entered, her face drawn with worry. "How is he?" Liam asked immediately. "Sedated, barely responsive." She dropped her bag on the bed. "Finch claims it's part of the treatment protocol, but after seeing this ... She gestured to the laptop. "It gets worse," Liam said grimly. "The original trial data is here, completely unaltered. They never even deleted it, they just created a separate falsified version for the board presentations." He turned the screen toward her, showing a chart tracking the neurological function of 12 trial participants over a 6-month period. The trend lines all pointed downward, some steeply, others more gradually, but all showing clear deterioration. "The treatment isn't just failing," Liam continued. "It's actively accelerating the degeneration of neural pathways. Look at this." He pulled up brain scans side by side, before and after 3 months of treatment. The difference was stark and horrifying, but why? Aveline whispered, staring at the evidence of betrayal. Why continue a treatment they knew was harmful? What could possibly be worth this? Liam navigated to another file. "I think I found the answer. This is an email thread between Finch, Vance, and an unnamed recipient, probably Wells. They discovered something unexpected in the early trial." He highlighted a paragraph. "The accelerated neural degradation has produced an unexpected side effect in subjects 3 and 7. The breakdown of the blood-brain barrier has allowed for increased penetration of the secondary compound, resulting in temporary but significant enhancement of cognitive processing speeds. If we can isolate this mechanism without the subsequent neural collapse, the commercial applications would be astronomical." Aveline sank onto the edge of the bed, the blood draining from her face. "They're using NDS patients as lab rats to develop a cognitive enhancer? They're killing my brother to create some kind of ... brain booster. A brain booster that could be marketed to everyone, not just the 2,000 people with NDS," Liam said softly. "Think of the market: students, executives, military personnel. Billions in potential revenue, versus the limited profit margin of treating a rare disease. They turned a potential cure into a weapon," Aveline whispered, her hands clenched into fists, knuckles white. "And they're testing it on my brother." Liam closed the laptop and sat beside her. "There's more. I found something in Vance's private files, a backup treatment protocol. It looks like they developed an actual treatment for NDS early on, something that showed genuine promise in initial tests. But they abandoned it when they discovered the cognitive enhancement angle." Hope flickered in Aveline's eyes. "A real treatment? Could it help Kellen? Could it help Maya? Maybe. The research is preliminary, but the data looks promising. Nothing miraculous, but it showed actual stabilization of neural pathways, not degradation. We need to get it to a real research team. Someone we can trust." Aveline stood, energy returning to her movements. "I have contacts at Mayo Clinic, specialists who've consulted on Kellen's case before. First, we need to stop the current treatment," Liam reminded her. "Every day Kellen and the other trial participants receive it. They're getting worse." Aveline nodded, her CEO mindset reasserting itself. "We need to move fast. Tomorrow morning Her phone rang, interrupting her. Harrison Wells' name flashed on the screen. She answered, putting it on speaker. "Aveline, where are you?" Wells' voice was tense, concerned. Taking care of personal matters, Harrison." It's wrong? There's been a security breach at the research facility. Someone's been accessing restricted files. The system flagged unauthorized downloads from the Langford Initiative servers." Aveline's eyes met Liam, alarm flashing between them. "When did this happen?" "This morning. I just detected it. I've already dispatched a security team to investigate, and I've called an emergency meeting with Finch and Vance. I'll be there in 30 minutes, Aveline said. "No need to interrupt your personal time. We can handle 30 minutes, Harrison." She ended the call and turned to Liam. "They know." "Not necessarily," he countered. "They know there was a breach, but they don't know it was us. Those USB drives were supposed to be undetectable. Supposed to be." Aveline was already gathering her things. "We need to accelerate the time. Tonight I'll go back to the research facility and get Kellen out." "We can't wait. That's too risky," Liam protested. "If they suspect you're involved, what choice do I have?" she snapped. "Every hour he stays there, they're poisoning him. I can't leave him there now that I know." Liam ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. "Let me help. I have access to all areas of both buildings. I can create a distraction while you get to Kellen." Aveline paused, studying his face. "Why are you doing this? You've already risked everything to expose the truth. You could take this evidence to the authorities right now and let them handle it." "And how long would that take?" Liam asked. "Investigations warrants legal proceedings. Maya doesn't have that kind of time. Neither does Kellen." He hesitated, then added softly, "Besides, you're not the only one who can't stand by and watch someone you love suffer." The words hung in the air between them, carrying more weight than either was prepared to acknowledge. Aveline's phone buzzed again. A text from Richard Graves, security alert at research facility. Finch ordering full data purge. "Need instructions. They're destroying the evidence," Aveline breathed. "We have to move now." As they hurriedly gathered the equipment and headed for the door, Liam's phone rang. The screen showed Mrs. Henderson's number. Cold dread settled in his stomach as he answered. "Liam, you need to come home right now," the elderly woman said, her voice tight with fear. "Maya's had some kind of seizure. The paramedics are taking her to St. Jude's. The world tilted beneath his feet. "I'm on my way," he managed, ending the call. He turned to Aveline, torn between two impossible choices: his daughter's bedside or the mission to save her life. Aveline saw the anguish in his eyes and made the decision for him. "Go to Maya. I'll handle Kellen and the data. You can't do it alone." "I won't be alone. I have Graves." She gripped his shoulder. "Your daughter needs you now. Go." As they parted ways outside the hotel, rushing toward separate hospitals on opposite sides of the city, neither saw the black sedan parked across the street nor the man inside taking photographs of them both. Dr. Corbin Vance lowered his camera and picked up his phone. "They've separated," he reported. "The janitor's heading toward St. Jude's." "Langford is alone." "Good," came Finch's voice through the speaker. "Follow the janitor. Make sure he doesn't reach the hospital. I'll take care of Aveline." Liam's world had narrowed to a razor-sharp focus. Get to Maya. Everything else, the conspiracy, the evidence, even his own safety, faded to background noise against the thundering urgency of reaching his daughter. The taxi crawled through evening traffic, each red light a personal affront, each slow-moving vehicle an obstacle between him and the hospital. "Can you go any faster?" he asked the driver, his voice tight with restrained panic. "Doing my best, man. Rush hour's a nightmare." Liam checked his phone again. No updates from Mrs. Henderson. He'd called the hospital, but they would only confirm that Maya Byrne had been admitted to the pediatric emergency department. No details on her condition, no reassurance that the seizure hadn't caused permanent damage. As the taxi inched forward, Liam became aware of a black sedan that had been behind them for several turns. The same car he'd glimpsed outside the hotel. Paranoia, or justified fear, after everything he'd discovered about Langford Industries. He couldn't dismiss the possibility that he was being followed. He leaned forward. "Take the next right, then an immediate left." The driver frowned. "That's not the way to St. Jude's, please. It's important." The taxi swerved right at the next intersection, then left into a narrow side street. The black sedan followed, all pretense abandoned. "Stop the car," Liam commanded. "I'll get out here. We're still 6 blocks from the hospital." Liam thrust cash through the partition. "Keep the change." He leapt from the taxi and sprinted down an alley between two apartment buildings, his heart pounding in his ears. Behind him, car doors slammed as his pursuers gave chase. He cut through a restaurant's outdoor seating area, knocking over chairs, creating obstacles. Faces blurred as he ran, his only thought getting to Maya before whoever was following him could catch up. At Langford's research facility, Aveline pulled her car into a reserved space near the service entrance. Richard Graves was waiting, his usually impassive face lined with tension. "The building's on lockdown," he reported as she approached. "Finch ordered all non-essential personnel to leave an hour ago. He's told the remaining staff it's due to a contamination risk. He's covering his tracks," Aveline said. "What about Kellen? Still in the high-security wing. They've doubled the guards at his door, claiming it's for his protection during the contamination event." Aveline's jaw tightened. "And the data? They're systematically wiping the servers. I managed to delay them by triggering a false security alert on the lower levels, but it won't hold them for long." She handed him a flash drive. "This contains everything Liam and I found. Get it to the FBI contact I mentioned, Agent Ramirez. Tell him to bring a team immediately." Graves pocketed the drive but didn't move. "And what will you be doing while I'm gone?" "Getting my brother out of here, Ms. Langford," Graves said, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper. "That's suicide. The facility's crawling with Finch's security team and they're not regular guards. These men are ex-military contractors. They won't hesitate to use lethal force if ordered. I'm aware of the risks. Then you're also aware that Finch won't let either of you leave this facility alive if he believes you know the truth." Aveline met his gaze steadily. "That's why I need your help, Richard. Not just to deliver the evidence, but to create a distraction big enough to let me reach Kellen." Graves studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "I can trigger the fire suppression system in the East Wing. We'll force an evacuation protocol and draw most of the security team away from the high-security area. How long will that give me? 5 minutes, maybe less once they realize it's a false alarm." "It's enough," Aveline said, though they both knew it probably wasn't. Graves hesitated, then removed his service weapon and handed it to her. "Do you know how to use this?" Aveline took the gun with steady hands. "My father insisted I learn. Said a woman in the pharmaceutical industry needed to protect herself." "Smart man." Graves checked his watch. "The distraction will start in exactly 10 minutes. That should give me time to get clear and you time to get into." As he turned to leave, Aveline caught his arm. "Richard ... thank you." A rare smile crossed his stern face. "Your father saved my life once. Told me I'd spend the rest of it repaying him by looking after you. Looks like he was right." 6 blocks from St. Jude's Hospital, Liam ducked into a crowded department store, weaving through racks of clothing, trying to lose his pursuer. He caught glimpses of the man, tall, thin, with the precise movements of someone accustomed to laboratory work rather than field operation. Dr. Vance, out of his element but determined nonetheless. Liam reached the store's back exit and burst into another alley, then sprinted toward the hospital, now visible several blocks away. His lungs burned, but fear for Maya drove him forward. Behind him, he heard Vance's footsteps. The scientist surprisingly persistent despite his age and desk-bound profession. The hospital's emergency entrance loomed ahead. Liam put on a final burst of speed, crashing through the automatic doors into the brightly lit lobby. Security guards looked up at his sudden entrance, but he rushed past them to the information desk. "Maya Byrne," he gasped to the startled receptionist. "My daughter. She was brought in by ambulance. Seizure." The woman typed quickly. "Yes, she's in pediatric emergency. 5th floor, but sir." Liam was already running toward the elevators. As the doors began to close, he saw Vance enter the lobby, scanning the crowd. Their eyes met for a split second before the elevator door shut completely. In the research facility, Aveline moved silently through the deserted corridors of the lower level. Her heels had been discarded in favor of flat shoes that allowed her to move quietly. The weight of Graves' gun pressed against her lower back, concealed but accessible. She checked her watch. 2 minutes until the distraction. She positioned herself in a supply closet near the high-security wing, listening to the guards stationed outside Kellen's room. Their conversation drifted through the thin walls. "Heard they're moving him tomorrow," one guard was saying. "Where to?" asked his companion. "Some private facility upstate. Very hush-hush. Finch says it's the final phase of treatment." Aveline's blood ran cold. Final phase sounded ominously like they were planning to eliminate Kellen once he was no longer useful for their experiments. Tomorrow would be too late. Her watch beeped silently. It was time. Seconds later, alarms blared throughout the facility. Emergency lights flashed, and an automated voice announced, "Fire suppression system activated in East Wing. All personnel evacuate immediately." This is not a drill. The guards outside Kellen's room tensed, listening to their radios. "Charlie Teen, report to East Wing to assist with evacuation," crackled a voice. One guard cursed. "That's us. What about the patient? He's sedated and secured. Nothing's getting past that door. Let's go." As the guards jogged away, Aveline counted to 30, then slipped from the closet and approached Kellen's room. The door required keycard access, but Graves had provided her with a master key. The lock clicked open and she entered. The sight that greeted her made her gasp. Kellen was barely recognizable. In the 3 days since she'd last visited, he had deteriorated dramatically. His skin was gray, stretched taut over protruding bones. 4 lines snaked into both arms, delivering the poison that was killing him in the name of scientific advancement. "Kellen," she whispered, rushing to his side. His eyes fluttered open at the sound of her voice. Unfocused, clouded with sedatives, but still aware enough to recognize her. "Avenue?" he croaked, the single syllable seeming to drain his strength. "I'm getting you out of here," she said, already working to disconnect the monitors. An alarm immediately began to sound at the nurse's station. She had minutes, perhaps less. "Can't move," Kellen managed. "I've got you," Aveline said, finding a wheelchair folded in the corner. She gently moved him from the bed, disconnecting the IVs with shaking hands. Each movement clearly caused him pain, but there was no time for gentleness. As she secured him in the wheelchair, the door burst open. Dr. Finch stood in the doorway, his face contorted with rage. "What do you think you're doing?" he demanded. Aveline reached for the gun, but Finch was faster, producing his own weapon. "I wouldn't," he said coldly. "Step away from him, Aveline." "You're killing him," she said, standing her ground. "You never intended to cure NDS, you just wanted to develop a cognitive enhancer you could sell to the masses. Kellen and the others were just lab rats to you." Finch's surprise was momentary. "The janitor," he said. "He got to you with his conspiracy. I should have known, not theory. Evidence. We have it all, Alistair. The original trial data, the emails, everything. It's already on its way to the FBI." Something dangerous flickered in Finch's eyes. "Even if that were true, it would be your word against mine. Board trusts me. The medical community respects me. Who would believe a desperate sister and a janitor?" "Everyone," Aveline said, "once they see what you've done to these patients." "To my brother." Finch stepped closer, the gun unwavering. "Your brother was always going to die, Aveline. NDS is fatal, but thanks to him, to his sacrifice, we're developing something that could revolutionize human cognition. Isn't that better than a cure that would help only a handful of people?" "Not to those people," she spat. "Not to their families." His face hardened. "I didn't want it to come to this. I respected your father, but you leave me no choice." As he raised the gun, the building shook with a tremendous explosion. The lights flickered, then died, plunging the room into darkness broken only by the red emergency lights. Graves' distraction had escalated beyond a simple fire alarm. In the momentary confusion, Aveline lunged forward, knocking Finch's arm upward as the gun discharged into the ceiling. They grappled in the semi-darkness, Aveline driven by desperate fury, Finch by cold determination. "You can't stop this," Finch growled, pinning her against the wall. "It's bigger than you. Bigger than Langford Industries. There are government contracts, military applications. The cognitive enhancer is just the beginning." Aveline fought with every ounce of strength, but Finch's grip was like iron. The gun pressed against her ribs. "I'm sorry it ends this way," he said, his finger tightening on the trigger. A crash of breaking glass made them both turn. Through the window, now shattered, climbed a figure in a blue janitor's uniform, bloodied but determined. Liam Byrne had arrived. In the red-tinged darkness, time seemed to suspend. Glass fragments still hung in the air, catching the emergency lights like crimson stars. Dr. Finch's gun wavered from Aveline toward the unexpected intruder. Liam's sudden appearance had created a perfect moment of confusion, a heartbeat of opportunity that Aveline seized without hesitation. She drove her knee into Finch's stomach and wrenched the gun from his grip as he doubled over. The weapon clattered across the floor, disappearing under Kellen's bed. "Get him out of here," Liam shouted, lunging toward Finch before the doctor could recover. The two men collided in a tangle of limbs, crashing against medical equipment. Liam had never been in a real fight before, his knowledge of combat limited to movies and instinct, but desperation made him dangerous. Finch, despite his scientific background, fought with the calculated precision precision of someone with training, landing targeted blows that sent pain radiating through Liam's ribs. Aveline hesitated only briefly before wheeling Kellen toward the door. Her brother's weight in the chair was shockingly light, his once powerful frame diminished to almost nothing. Liam ... single quote, she began, torn between helping him and saving her brother. Go, Liam grunted, blocking a punch from Finch that would have connected with his temple. Get him to safety. I'll find you. Finch's eyes blazed with cold fury as he watched Aveline disappear through the doorway with Kellen. You've ruined everything, he hissed at Liam, landing a sharp jab to his solar plexus that left him gasping. Years of research, billions in potential revenue ... single quotes. Liam stumbled back, wheezing but still on his feet. You mean years of lies? He countered. Killing innocent people for profit? Finch reached behind him and produced a scalpel from a medical tray, its blade gleaming in the emergency lighting. Not profit, he corrected, advancing slowly. Progress. Advancement, the kind of breakthrough that happens once in a generation. He slashed forward, the blade missing Liam's throat by inches as he jerked backward. What's the life of one janitor's daughter compared to that? The mention of Maya ignited something primal in Liam. His mind flashed to the hospital room he'd reached just 30 minutes earlier. Maya's tiny form connected to monitors, her eyelids fluttering with seizure activity, the doctors working frantically to stabilize her. She crashed twice in the ambulance, Doctor. Ramirez had told him grimly. We've stabilized her for now, but her condition is deteriorating much faster than we predicted. The new medication isn't working. He'd stood there helpless, watching the medical team fight for his daughter's life when his phone had buzzed with a text from Aveline. Emergency at research facility. Graves injured. Need help. The impossible choice had torn him apart. Stay with Maya, or help Aveline expose the truth that might save her. In the end, Mrs. Henderson had made the decision for him. Go, the elderly woman had said, taking his hand. I'll stay with her. You do whatever you need to do to help her. That's what a parent does. Now, facing Finch's blade, that parental instinct transformed him. He grabbed a metal IV stand and swung it in a wide arc, forcing Finch to retreat. You experimented on children, Liam growled, advancing. You lied to desperate families. You gave them poison and called it hope. Finch circled warily. You understand nothing? The cognitive enhancer we're developing could revolutionize human potential. Imagine soldiers who never need sleep, scientists with twice the mental processing power, children who can learn at 3 times the normal rate. At what cost? Liam demanded, swinging the forestand again. My daughter's life? Kellen Langford's? How many people are you willing to sacrifice for your revolution? Finch's smile was cold. As many as necessary. He lunged suddenly, the scalpel slicing through Liam's sleeve and into the flesh beneath. Pain seared down his arm, but Liam countered by ramming the forestand into Finch's chest, pinning him against the wall. You're just a janitor, Finch gasped, struggling against the metal pole. You're nothing, nobody. Liam leaned close, increasing the pressure. That's where you're wrong. I'm a father. With a final surge of strength, he slammed Finch's head against the wall. The doctor's eyes rolled back and he slumped unconscious to the floor. Liam stood over him, breathing heavily, blood dripping from his arm. The building shuddered with another explosion, more distant this time. Whatever Graves had started was escalating. He needed to find Aveline and Kellen. In the corridor outside, chaos reigned. Emergency systems blared contradictory instructions. Some urging evacuation, others ordering lockdown. Research staff ran in confusion, while security personnel attempted to maintain order. Liam moved against the flow of evacuating scientists, following the path Aveline would have taken toward the service exit. His janitor's uniform, despite the blood now staining one sleeve, proved again to be the perfect disguise. In emergencies, maintenance staff were expected to move counter to evacuation, checking for stragglers or hazards. He found them in a service corridor near the loading docks. Aveline was struggling to maneuver Kellen's wheelchair through a security door that had automatically locked during the emergency. Let me, Liam said, pulling his master keycard from his pocket. Every Langford facility used the same system, and a janitor's maintenance key opened most doors. You're hurt, Aveline observed, noting the blood-soaked sleeve. It's nothing. The door clicked open and they pushed through into the vehicle bay where delivery trucks normally unloaded supplies. Finch won't be following us anytime soon. Dead? She asked, her voice carefully neutral. Unconscious. I'm a janitor, not a killer. He helped her lift Kellen's wheelchair down a small set of steps. What happened to Graves? Your text said he was injured. Aveline's expression darkened. Harrison Wells happened. He intercepted Graves before he could leave with the evidence. Shot him in the parking lot. Is he ... alive, but critical. Security found him and called an ambulance. In the confusion, Wells took the flash drive with all our evidence. The implications hit Liam like a physical blow. So we have nothing? No proof? We have Kellen, Aveline said grimly. And we have you and me. Eyewitnesses to what they've done. Eyewitnesses can be discredited, Liam countered, or silenced. The loading bay door was partially open, offering a view of the facility's perimeter fence and the darkened grounds beyond. Emergency vehicles were arriving, their lights painting the night in strobing blues and reds. We need to get Kellen to a hospital, Aveline said, looking anxiously at her brother. His breathing had grown more labored, his skin taking on a grayish tint. Not St. Jude's. Liam said immediately. Vance is there watching Maya, and now that Wells has the flash drive, they'll know everything we've discovered. We can't trust any local hospital, Aveline thought quick. My family has a private physician in Greenwich. He's cared for Kellen before. We can trust him. Greenwich is an hour away without traffic. I have a car in the executive garage, underground level, separate entrance. If we can reach it, we might have a chance. They moved quickly through the shadows of the loading bay, avoiding the flashing lights of emergency vehicle. Kellen mumbled occasionally, semi-conscious, his head lolling against the wheelchair's headrest. Stay with us, Kellen, Aveline whispered fiercely. Just a little longer. They had almost reached the side gate leading to the executive garage when headlights swept across them. A black SUV screeched to a halt, blocking their path. The driver's door opened and Harrison Wells stepped out, a gun in his hand. That's far enough, he called, his voice carrying across the pavement. Aveline pushed Kellen's wheelchair behind a concrete pillar, shielding him with her body. Liam stepped forward, placing himself between Wells and the Langfords. It's over, Harrison, Aveline called. Finch is unconscious inside. The authorities are already here. Local police, Wells dismissed. They have no jurisdiction over a private research matter. By the time the FBI arrives, this will all be handled. Handled? Liam repeated. You mean covered up? More lives sacrificed for your cognitive enhancer? Wells looked genuinely surprised. You really don't understand what we've created, do you? This isn't just a cognitive enhancer, it's the next step in human evolution. The military applications alone are worth billions. He stepped closer, the gun unwavering. The formula derived from Kellen's treatment has already shown a 40% increase in neural processing, speed with minimal side effects in healthy subjects. Minimal side effects? Aveline's voice shook with rage. Look at my brother. Look what you've done to him. A necessary sacrifice, Wells said, his voice softening with what sounded like genuine regret. Your father would have understood. He knew that progress demands costs. Don't you dare speak about my father, Aveline hissed. He was a healer, not a murderer. Wells sighed. This is getting us nowhere. I need Kellen back inside. The final extraction protocol is ready, and we need to complete it before the federal authorities arrive. The data in his system is too valuable to lose. Liam felt his blood run cold. Final extraction protocol? You're going to kill him. His condition is terminal anyway, Wells said, as if explaining something obvious to a child. This way, his death serves a greater purpose. And what about my daughter? Liam demanded. What about the other patients in your trial? Wells's expression hardened. Collateral damage. Unavoidable in the pursuit of greatness. He raised the gun. Now step aside, Mr. Byrne. You've been remarkably resourceful for a janitor, but this is the end of the line. As Wells's finger tightened on the trigger, the night exploded with sound and light. A helicopter appeared overhead, its searchlight pinning Wells in a circle of harsh white illumination. A voice boomed from a loudspeaker. Harrison Wells. This is FBI Special Agent Ramirez. Drop your weapon and get on the ground. The facility is surrounded. Wells looked up, momentarily blinded by the searchlight. In that crucial moment of distraction, Liam charged forward, tackling him to the ground. The gun discharged harmlessly into the air as they grappled on the pavement. More vehicles poured into the complex, not local police, but black SUVs with federal mark. Agents in tactical gear swarmed the area, weapons drawn. Liam pinned Wells to the ground, his face inches from the CFOs. It's over, he panted. How did they dot? Wells's expression contorted with fury and disbelief. Graves, he spat. He must have had a backup of the evidence. Aveline rushed to her brother's side as agents secured the area. We need medical transport immediately, she shouted to the nearest FBI agent. This man needs emergency care. As paramedics hurried toward Kellen, Liam approached Agent Ramirez, who was overseeing Wells's arrest. There's one more, he said urgently. Dr. Corbin Vance. He's at St. Jude's Hospital watching my daughter. Ramirez nodded grimly. We know. A team is already there. He studied Liam's bloodied appearance. You should get that arm looked at, Mr. Byrne. I need to get to my daughter, Liam insisted. She had a seizure. She's in critical condition. We'll get you there, Ramirez assured him. But first, I need to know, how much does Maya know about all this? The question caught Liam off guard. Nothing. She thinks I'm just a janitor. Why? Ramirez exchanged a glance with another agent. Because Dr. Vance was apprehended 10 minutes ago attempting to access the pediatric ICU with a syringe of unidentified substance. If your daughter had been conscious, ... single quotes, the implication hit Liam like a physical blow. They had been willing to murder a child to protect their secret. As agents led a handcuffed Wells to a waiting vehicle, Liam caught Aveline's eye across the chaos of flashing lights and urgent activity. In that moment, a wordless understanding passed between them. This wasn't over. Not for Kellen, not for Maya, not for any of them. The battle had been won, but the war to save their loved ones was just beginning. The private room in Greenwich Memorial Hospital was a stark contrast to the institutional sterility of St. Jude's Pediatric ICU. Here, warm wood paneling and soft lighting created an atmosphere more reminiscent of a luxury hotel than a medical facility. Maya lay in a bed that seemed far too large for her diminutive frame, connected to monitors that beeped with reassuring regularity. The seizures had subsided, but the tremors in her hands had worsened, now extending to occasional spasms that traveled up her arms. Liam sat beside her, his own arm bandaged where Finch's scalpel had sliced through muscle and tissue. 36 hours had passed since the raid on the Langford Research Facility. 36 hours of statements to federal agents, medical evaluation, and the gut-wrenching nerve-wrenching process of transferring Maya from St. Jude's to this private hospital where Aveline had arranged for her care. "Daddy?" Maya's voice was thin, her eyes fluttering open. "Where are we?" Liam leaned forward, taking her small hand in his. "Sweet pea, we're at a special hospital. Ems Langford, you remember her, right? She helped us get you here where the doctors can take better care of you." Maya's brow furrowed as she processed this information. "The nice lady in the fancy clothes? Is she your friend?" The question gave Liam pause. What was Aveline to him? 48 hours ago, she had been his employer, a distant corporate entity he cleaned up after but never engaged with. Now they were bound by shared trauma, shared enemies, shared purpose. "Yes," he said finally, "she's my friend." "Good," Maya said with childlike certainty. "You need more friends." A soft knock at the door preceded Aveline's entrance. She'd abandoned her corporate armor of tailored suits and imposing heels, dressed instead in jeans and a simple sweater that made her look younger, more vulnerable. The dark circles under her eyes spoke of sleepless nights that mirrored Liam's own. "How is she?" Aveline asked, her voice hushed. "I'm okay," Maya answered for herself, smiling weakly. "Are you Daddy's friend?" Something softened in Aveline's expression as she approached the bed. "Yes, I am. My name's Aveline. That's a pretty name. I'm Maya." "I know," Aveline said, returning the smile. "Your dad talks about you all the time." This wasn't strictly true. They'd had precious little time for personal conversations, but the words seemed to please Maya, who beamed despite her fatigue. "How's Kellen?" Liam asked, noting the tension Aveline carried in her shoulders. Her smile faded, stable but unresponsive. "The doctors have him on a complete detox protocol, trying to flush the experimental compounds from his system." She glanced at Maya, clearly measuring her words. "They're ... not optimistic about reversing the damage." Liam understood the unspoken message. Kellen's condition was dire, and by extension, so was Maya's. The disease that was destroying them both had been accelerated by Finch's poisonous treatment. "Dr. Chun wants to speak with us both," Aveline continued. "About treatment options." Liam looked down at Maya, reluctant to leave her side. "Go ahead, Daddy," Maya said, displaying the uncanny perceptiveness of children. "I'm just gonna draw for a while." She reached for the sketch pad and pencils that Mrs. Henderson had brought from their apartment. "I'll be right back, sweet pea," Liam promised, pressing a kiss to her forehead. In the hallway outside, Dr. Eliza Chun waited with a tablet and a grave expression. Unlike Finch and Vance, she had been uninvolved in the conspiracy, a respected neurologist who had consulted on Kellen's case before being deliberately sidelined when she began asking too many questions about the experimental protocol. "I've reviewed all the data recovered from the Langford facility," she began without preamble. "The news isn't good. The compound they were using permanently alters neural pathways. In healthy subjects, this creates the cognitive enhancement effect they were pursuing. In patients with NDS, it accelerates the breakdown of those same pathways. Can you reverse it?" Aveline asked, her voice tight. Dr. Chun's expression was compassionate but honest. "Not completely, no. We can halt the acceleration, return the progression to its natural pace, but we can't undo the damage already done." "And the original treatment?" Liam asked. "The one they abandoned when they discovered the enhancement angle?" "That's actually why I wanted to speak with both of you." Chun swiped through screens on her tablet. "The original formula showed genuine promise in early tests. It didn't cure NDS, but it did effectively stabilize the condition, preventing further deterioration." Hope flickered in Liam's chest. "So you could stop the progression? Maya wouldn't get worse?" "Theoretically, yes. But there's a complication." Chun looked between them. "The formula is incomplete. Finch and his team deliberately fragmented the research data as a security measure. We have maybe 70% of what we need to synthesize the stabilizing compound." Aveline's jaw tightened. "And the other 30%? Is likely in the secured servers at Langford headquarters, the ones the FBI hasn't been able to access yet because of ongoing legal challenges from your board of directors." Of course, even with Wells and Finch in custody, the Langford Industries legal team was fighting to protect what they called proprietary information, delaying access to crucial data while Maya and Kellen's conditions worsened by the hour. "I could get in," Liam said suddenly. Both women turned to him. "I have maintenance access to every server room in the building." "The board doesn't know that a janitor's keycard opens almost every door. It's too dangerous," Aveline countered immediately. "The board knows you're involved now. Security will be watching for you. Not if I go in during the night shift. Half the night crew doesn't even know what I look like. They just see the uniform." "And what exactly would you be looking for?" Dr. Chun asked, skeptical but intrigued. "Specific research files," he replied. "If you can tell me exactly what data you need, I can find it." Chun shook her head. "It's not that simple. The data would be encrypted, secured behind multiple firewalls. You'd need administrative access, passwords, ... single quotes, which I have," Aveline interjected. Both Liam and Dr. Chun stared at her in surprise. "I'm still CEO until the board votes to remove me. My credentials would unlock any system in the building." "They've probably revoked your access by now," Chun pointed out. A hint of the corporate shark resurfaced in Aveline's smile. "Officially, perhaps, but my father built that system, and he taught me a few backdoors that only a Langford would know." The plan formed quickly after that. They would enter Langford headquarters that night, Liam using his maintenance access to get them inside, Aveline using her hidden administrative privileges to extract the missing research data. If they succeeded, Dr. Chun could potentially synthesize the stabilizing treatment within days. If they failed, The consequences would be severe, not just legal repercussions, but the certain knowledge that they had lost their last chance to save Maya and Kellen. As they finalized the details, Agent Ramirez arrived, his expression serious as he asked to speak with them privately. "We've been interrogating Wells and Finch," he informed them in an empty consultation room. "They've both lawyered up, but Wells is starting to crack. He's looking for a deal." "What kind of deal?" Aveline asked, her voice cold. "Reduced charges in exchange for information. He claims there's more to this than we know, that Langford Industries is just one piece of a larger operation." "Operation?" Liam repeated. Ramirez hesitated, then continued. "He's alluding to something called Project Prometheus, apparently a multi-agency initiative to develop cognitive enhancement, technology for military and intelligence applications. If he's telling the truth, this goes beyond corporate greed into national security territory." The implications were staggering. If government agencies were involved, the conspiracy had roots and protection that extended far beyond what they had imagined. "Is the FBI compromised?" Aveline asked bluntly. "I don't think so," Ramirez replied, "but I can't guarantee that other agencies aren't involved, which is why I'm here off the record." He placed a small device on the table. "This is a secure data extraction. If you find evidence related to Project Prometheus, I want to know about it before my superiors do." Single quotes. Liam and Aveline exchanged glances. The agent was essentially admitting he didn't fully trust his own chain of command. "Why are you telling us this?" Liam asked. Ramirez's expression softened momentarily. "Because I have a niece with NDS Sophia. She's 9. The professional mask returned almost immediately. "I'll deny this conversation ever happened if asked, but if there's a treatment out there that could help her, help all of them, I want to make sure it doesn't disappear into some classified black hole." After Ramirez left, Liam and Aveline returned to Maya's room. She had fallen asleep, the sketchpad still clutched in her hand. Liam gently removed it, pausing when he saw what she had drawn. A crude but recognizable portrait of himself and Aveline, stick figures holding hands with a smaller figure between them. "He's good," Aveline whispered, standing close enough that Liam could feel the warmth of her shoulder against his. "She wants to be an artist," Liam replied, his throat tight with emotion. "When she grows up," the simple phrase, "when she grows up," hung in the air between them, weighted with hope and fear and desperate determination. "She will grow up," Aveline said firmly, her hand finding his in the dimly lit room. "They both will, I promise you that." As night approached, they prepared for their mission, perhaps the most important cleaning job Liam had ever undertaken at Langford Industries. Mrs. Henderson arrived to stay with Maya, armed with stories and a fierce maternal protectiveness that belied her age. "You bring back what she needs," the elderly woman instructed them, her voice brooking no argument. "That little girl deserves her chance." In the hospital parking garage, Aveline's sleek black Audi waited, a vehicle that seemed to absorb the shadows around it. "Ready?" she asked as they settled into the leather seats. Liam thought of Maya's drawing, the 3 stick figures standing together. A family she had created in her imagination. A future that might never exist if they failed tonight. "Ready," he confirmed. "Let's go clean house." Single quotes. Langford Industries headquarters stood like a sleeping giant against the night sky, its glass exterior reflecting the city lights and fractured patterns. At 2:14 a.m. the building was largely deserted, populated only by security guards and the invisible army of night shift workers who kept the corporate machine running while executives slept. Liam had chosen this time carefully. The third-floor security monitoring station would be staffed by Morris, a guard who routinely took unauthorized breaks around 2:30 a.m. The night cleaning supervisor, Diaz, would be conducting inventory in the basement-level supply rooms, leaving the service elevators temporarily unmonitored. "Are you sure about this?" Aveline asked as Liam parked his battered Honda 3 blocks from the building. They'd left her distinctive Audi at a hotel parking garage miles away to avoid recognition. "Sure as I can be," he replied, pulling a janitor's uniform from a duffel bag. It was identical to the one he normally wore, though this one lacked the Langford Industries logo, a precaution in case they needed to discard evidence quickly. "The night shift follows patterns. After 3 years, I know every crack in the system." Aveline studied him as he pulled the blue uniform shirt over his t-shirt. In the dim light of the car's interior, with determination etched on his face, he looked nothing like the invisible service worker she'd barely noticed for years. The revelation shamed her. How many other people had she looked past, dismissed as part of the backdrop of her privileged existence? "What about you?" Liam asked, nodding to the expensive clothes she wore. "You don't exactly look like janitorial staff." Aveline reached into her bag and produced a neatly folded set of dark scrubs. "Environmental services supervisor," she explained. "I had Dr. Chun procure these from the hospital. I figure if anyone asks, I'm conducting a facility audit." Liam smiled despite the tension. "You've thought of everything." "Not everything," she admitted, "just trying to keep up with you." They approached the building from the service entrance on the east side, a plain metal door used primarily by maintenance staff and delivery personnel. Liam's key card still worked, the system accepting his credentials with a soft beep and a green light. If the board had ordered his access revoked, the message hadn't reached the security system administrators yet. The service corridor was empty, the fluorescent lights dimmed to their night setting. Liam moved with practiced confidence, pushing a cleaning cart he'd retrieved from a storage closet just inside the entrance. Aveline walked beside him, clipboard in hand, the picture of administrative authority. "The main server farm is on the 47th floor," she whispered as they approached the service elevator. "But the backup research database is in a secure room on 32, less monitored, and it should have everything we need." The elevator doors closed behind them, and Liam inserted his key to override the standard floor limitation. As the car began its ascent, Aveline's shoulders tensed. "What if they've changed the protocols since you've been gone?" "Then we adapt," Liam said simply. "I've been adapting since Maya got sick. It's what parents do." Quiet confidence in his voice steadied her. This man had already risked everything once to save his daughter. He would find a way through any obstacle they encountered. The elevator stopped at the 32nd floor, and they stepped out into darkness. Motion sensors detected their presence, illuminating the corridor with subdued lighting. The floor was designed for digital storage, a labyrinth of climate-controlled rooms housing servers that contained the lifeblood of Langford Industries' research data, financial records, personnel files, everything that made the corporation function. They moved silently toward the far end of the floor, where a reinforced door marked Research Archive. Authorized personnel only stood like a sentinel. Liam tried his keycard, but the light remained red. "As expected," Aveline murmured. "This requires executive clearance." She pulled out her own badge, not her official CEO identification, but a backup she'd kept in a safe deposit box after her father's death. "Let's see if the back door still works." She swiped the card, then entered a sequence on the keypad that wasn't a standard access code. The system seemed to hesitate, the light blinking yellow for several seconds before finally turning green. The door unlocked with a soft click. "What was that?" Liam asked as they slipped inside. "My father's override," Aveline explained. "He programmed it into the original security system, a way to access any room in an emergency. The sequence is his birthday, my mother's birthday, and the day Langford Industries went public, entered in reverse." Inside, rows of servers hummed with quiet efficiency, blinking lights casting an eerie blue glow across their faces. Aveline approached a terminal near the center of the room, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "This could trigger an alert. Once I log in, we'll have maybe 15 minutes before someone notices unusual activity." Liam nodded, positioning himself near the door where he could watch the corridor through a narrow window. "I'll keep lookout. Do what you need to do." Aveline's fingers flew across the keyboard, navigating through layers of security with the ease of someone who had helped design the system. When she reached the research database, she inserted Ramirez's device into a USB port and began searching for files related to the original NDS treatment. "Here," she breathed after several tense minutes. "Project Lazarus." That was the internal coding name for the stabilizing treatment before they shifted focus to the cognitive enhancer. She began copying files, her eyes scanning the data as it transferred. My God, Liam. They knew the stabilization protocol worked. They had successful results 3 months into the trial. Then why abandon it? Liam asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Profit margin," Aveline confirmed, her voice tight with disgust. According to these notes, the stabilizing treatment would require ongoing administration, weekly injections for the rest of the patient's life. Effective, but not a blockbuster drug. The cognitive enhancer, however, ... single quote, she trailed off, opening another file. They projected annual revenues of $12 billion. Enhancement for the healthy rather than treatment for the sick. The betrayal cut deep. Her own company, founded on her father's idealistic vision of healing the incurable, had abandoned that mission for the promise of greater profit. Aveline felt physically ill as she continued transferring the critical files. "Liam," she called softly, opening a new directory. "Found something else. Project Prometheus." The government connection Ramirez mentioned. Liam glanced nervously at the corridor before joining her at the terminal. On the screen was a series of communications between Harrison Wells and someone identified only as Director S. The exchanges detailed a partnership between Langford Industries and a classified government program to develop neural enhancement technology for field operatives. They were developing it for spies, realized. Soldiers. The perfect weapon. Humans with accelerated cognitive function, and using NDS patients as unwitting test subjects. Aveline added grimly, because their neural pathways were already compromised, making them ideal for experimental manipulation. A file labeled Phase 3 implementation contained something even more disturbing: plans to begin testing the cognitive enhancer on healthy children, starting with those in military families who could be monitored long-term for side effects. They were going to experiment on children, Liam whispered, his face pale. Healthy children. Aveline copied everything, her hands shaking with a mixture of rage and determination. "We have it all now. Enough to bring down Langford Industries and whoever in the government is backing this. We need to focus." Liam reminded her gently. "Maya and Kellen first, justice second." She nodded, refocusing on the original task, finding the complete formula for the stabilizing treatment. After several more minutes of searching, she found what they needed: the complete chemical structure and synthesis protocol for the NDS stabilizer. "Got it," she said triumphantly, the data copying to Ramirez's device. "Doctor, Chun can start production as soon as we..." The lights suddenly shifted to red, and an alarm began to sound. Not the blaring evacuation signal they'd feared, but a subtle, pulsing alert that indicated a security breach had been detected. "We need to go." Liam said urgently. Now. They disconnected the device and erased all traces of their presence from the terminal. As they slipped back into the corridor, they heard the elevator arriving at their floor, security responding to the alert. This way, Liam whispered, leading Aveline toward the emergency stairwell at the opposite end of the floor. If we reach the 28th floor, we can cross to the east service elevator. It runs to the loading dock. They moved quickly but quietly. Aveline following Liam's lead as he navigated the building with the intimate knowledge of someone who had cleaned every corner of it. The stairwell door closed behind them just as security officers emerged from the elevator, descending in near darkness. They had reached the 29th floor when they heard a door open several floors above them. More security, searching methodically. They quickened their pace, the metal stairs creaking treacherously beneath their feet. Almost there, Liam encouraged as they reached the 28th floor landing. He eased the door open, checking that the corridor was clear before they slipped through. They were halfway to the service elevator when a voice called from behind them, "Stop right there." They turned to find a security guard, his hand on his weapon, advancing cautiously. Both of you," he demanded. Liam stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Aveline. "Evening, Rob," he said casually, recognizing the guard from his regular shifts. "Late night audit, building services." The guard frowned, clearly not immediately recognizing Liam in the dimly lit corridor. "ID," he repeated firmly. Liam slowly reached for his badge, knowing it would trigger an immediate alert when scanned. The moment of truth had arrived sooner than they'd expected. He exchanged a quick glance with Aveline, silently communicating that they might need to run. Just as Liam began to withdraw his badge, a crash sounded from several floors above, followed by shouting. The guard's radio crackled to life. "All units to 47th floor. We have intruders in the main server room. Repeat, all units to 47. Rob hesitated, torn between protocol and the urgent call. "Stay right here," he ordered, backing toward the stairwell. "Don't move until I get back." The moment he disappeared into the stairwell, Liam grabbed Aveline's hand. "Run!" They sprinted to the service elevator, Liam's keycard opening it instantly. As the doors closed behind them, Aveline turned to him, breathless. "What just happened?" "Who's on 47? I have no idea," Liam admitted, "but I'm not questioning the miracle." "Let's get out of here while they're distracted." The elevator descended to the loading dock, where they quickly discarded their disguises, stuffing them into a nearby trash compactor. They slipped out through an emergency exit, the alarm deliberately disabled by maintenance for smoke breaks, another crack in the system that Liam had discovered years ago. Only when they were blocks away, hurrying toward Liam's car, did they allow themselves to breathe. The precious data was secure in Aveline's pocket, their escape seemingly clean. "We did it," Aveline said, the adrenaline making her voice shake. "We actually did it." Single quotes. Liam nodded, but his expression remained guarded. "Yeah, but who was on the 47th floor? That wasn't a coincidence. Maybe the FBI? Ramirez could have sent a team in as backup. Without telling us?" Liam shook his head. "No, something else is happening here. Someone else is involved." As they reached the car, Liam's phone vibrated. A text message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. "You're welcome. The distraction was courtesy of friends who share your interest in Project Prometheus. We should talk. Tomorrow. Greenwich Hospital cafeteria, 10 a.m. Aveline read the message over his shoulder, her brow furrowing. Who could have known we were there? Who else is investigating Prometheus? Liam started the car, his mind racing. "I don't know. But right now, we have what we need for Maya and Kellen. That's all that matters." As they drove toward Greenwich and the hospital where their loved ones waited, neither noticed the drone that tracked their movement from high above, its cameras sending encrypted footage to a secure facility thousands of miles away, where a team of analysts watched with intense interest. Dawn broke over Greenwich Hospital, painting the sky in watercolor hues of pink and gold. In the research laboratory on the building's lower level, Dr. Eliza Chun had been working through the night, analyzing the data Liam and Aveline had retrieved from Langford Industries. Her eyes were red-rimmed with exhaustion, but her movements remained precise as she manipulated molecular structures on a high-resolution screen. Liam and Aveline sat nearby, nursing cups of coffee that had long since gone cold. Neither had slept, their bodies running on adrenaline and hope. "The formulation is brilliant, Doctor," Chun remarked, breaking a silence that had stretched for nearly an hour. "Elegant, really. It targets the specific neural pathways affected by NDS without impacting healthy function." She turned to face them. "Whoever designed this originally was a genius. Can you synthesize it?" Aveline asked, the only question that mattered. Chun nodded. "Already started. The hospital's pharmaceutical lab is first batch. We should have enough for initial treatments for both Maya and Kellen by this afternoon." Relief washed over Liam like a physical wave, so powerful he had to brace himself against the edge of the table. "And it will work? It will stop the progression?" "Based on the original research data, yes," Chun confirmed, though her expression remained cautiously optimistic rather than triumphant. "It should halt further neural degradation. However, single quotes." She hesitated. "However what?" Aveline prompted, tension creeping back into her voice. "It won't reverse the damage that's already been done," Chun explained gently. "So sorry, the acceleration caused by Finch's treatment. The stabilization protocol will prevent things from getting worse, but improvement would be minimal if any. The implications hung heavy in the air. Maya and Kellen would live, but the tremors, the weakness, the neurological damage they had already suffered would likely remain permanent fixtures of their lives." "That's enough," Liam said firmly. "If Maya can have a future, Any future, that's enough. Aveline's hand found his, fingers intertwining in a gesture that had become familiar in the days they'd spent together. We'll take what we can get, she agreed, and fund research for something better, Doctor. Chun smiled tiredly. Keep working. There might be ways to enhance the regenerative aspects of the formula, given time and resource. She stood, stretching muscles stiff from hours hunched over computers. You both should get some rest. I'll call the moment the first batch is ready. They left the lab and made their way to the hospital cafeteria. Despite their exhaustion, neither felt capable of sleep, not with the mysterious meetings scheduled for 10 a.m., now just 2 hours away. Who do you think it could be? Aveline wondered, picking at a muffin without appetite. Someone from a rival pharmaceutical company, maybe? Liam shook his head. The message mentioned Prometheus specifically. This goes beyond corporate espionage. A whistleblower from inside the government program? Possibly. Liam conceded. Or someone else with a personal stake in exposing the truth. Someone like us. They fell silent, both acutely aware of the us in his statement, the partnership that had formed between them, forged in crisis and shared purpose. In less than a week, they had gone from employer and employee, separated by vast gulfs of power and privilege, to something neither could quite define but both increasingly relied upon. At 9:30, they went to check on their loved one. Maya was awake, her tremors noticeably worse than the previous day, but her spirit undimmed as she worked on another drawing despite her shaking hands. Morning, sweet pea, Liam greeted, his heart aching at the effort each pencil stroke now cost her. Daddy, M's, Aveline. Maya's face lit up. Look what I'm drawing, it's Dr. Chun making the special medicine. The child's intuition never ceased to amaze him. Somehow Maya had understood the essence of what was happening around her, translating it into her art with remarkable perception. It's beautiful, Aveline said, sitting gently on the edge of the bed. You've captured her expression perfectly. Maya beamed at the praise. Is the medicine ready yet? Almost, Liam promised. Dr. Chun is working very hard to make sure it's just right for you. And for Mr. Kellen too, Maya added solemnly. Mrs. Henderson told me he's sick like me. She said you're helping him too. Liam nodded, throat tight with emotion. That's right, we're helping you both. Good, Maya declared with childlike certainty. Everyone should have someone to help them when they're sick. Aveline excused herself shortly after, the simple wisdom of a child's perspective overwhelming her carefully maintained composure. Liam found her in the hallway outside Kellen's room, wiping tears from her eyes. Sorry, she said, straightening her shoulders with visible effort. I just need a minute. Don't apologize, Liam said gently. This is hard. All of it. Single quotes. Aveline nodded toward her brother's room. He's worse today. The nurse said he had another seizure overnight. Chun said the medicine will be ready this afternoon, Liam reminded her. Just a few more hours, I know. It's just ... single quotes. She hesitated, searching for words. I've spent 2 years trying to save him, moving heaven and earth, spending billions, breaking rules. And in the end, it wasn't my money or my power that made the difference. It was a janitor who refused to bribe. Liam shook his head. It was both of us. Your resources, my access. Your determination, my desperation. We needed each other. The truth of the statement resonated between them, an acknowledgement of how thoroughly their lives had become intertwined. At precisely 10 a.m., they entered the hospital cafeteria again. The morning rush had subsided, leaving the large space half empty. They chose a table near the back wall, positioned to see anyone approaching. At 10:05, a woman entered, mid-50s. Elegantly dressed in a charcoal pantsuit, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun. She scanned the room with calculated precision before walking directly to their table. Emma Byrne, Ms. Langford. She nodded to each of them. Thank you for coming. Who are you? Aveline asked bluntly. The woman sat, placing a slim leather briefcase on the table. My name is Dr. Margaret Sinclair. Until 3 weeks ago, I was the deputy director of the Advanced Neuroscience Division at DARPA. Liam and Aveline exchanged glances. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the government's cutting-edge research arm for military technology. Project Prometheus, Liam stated rather than asked. Dr. Sinclair's expression tightened. Yes, a program I helped create and then watched turn into something I could no longer ethically support. You're a whistleblower, Aveline realized. I prefer the term patriot, Sinclair replied coolly. I believe in advancing human potential through science. I do not believe in sacrificing vulnerable populations as unwitting test subjects. Like NDS patients, Liam said. Precisely. Sinclair opened her briefcase and removed a tablet. Prometheus began 5 years ago as a legitimate research initiative into cognitive enhancement, memory improvement, accelerated learning, extended focus periods, all voluntary, all with fully informed participants. What changed? Aveline asked. New leadership, budget pressures, the eternal military desire for results yesterday. Sinclair's mouth twisted bitterly. When initial progress proved slower than anticipated, certain elements within the Pentagon pushed for more ... aggressive approaches. She slid the tablet toward them. On the screen was an internal memo authorizing a partnership with Langford Industries, classified at the highest level. Harrison Wells approached us, Sinclair continued. He had a research team that had discovered a potential neural accelerant effect in NDS patients receiving experimental treatment. He proposed a public-private partnership. Langford would conduct the public research ostensibly focused on treating NDS, while secretly developing the enhancement aspects for military application. And no one objected to this. Aveline demanded, disgust evident in her voice. Many did, myself included, Sinclair replied, but we were overruled. The potential military applications were too tempting. Soldiers with enhanced cognitive function, intelligence analysts who could process information at twice the normal rate, field operatives who could learn new languages in weeks instead of years. So you just went along with it? Liam challenged, anger rising, while people like my daughter suffered? Sinclair met his gaze unflinchingly. For a time, yes. I believed I could do more good from the inside, steering the research toward ethical boundaries. I was wrong. She tapped the tablet, bringing up another document. When I discovered they were planning Phase 3 trials on children, I resigned and took evidence with me. That's why you helped us last night, Aveline realized. You're building a case, yes, but I need more. The files you accessed contain critical data that could expose the entire program. Sinclair leaned forward intently. I have a congressional oversight committee prepared to launch an investigation, but I need concrete proof linking Project Prometheus to the unethical testing on NDS patients. Liam hesitated, thinking of Ramirez's device still in Aveline's possession. We have evidence, but we've already promised it to the FBI. Agent Ramirez? Sinclair asked knowingly. When they both stiffened in surprise, she smiled thinly. He's one of the good ones. But the FBI's investigation will focus on Langford Industries' corporate crimes, fraud, possibly involuntary manslaughter. The government connection would likely be buried, classified in the name of national security. So what are you proposing? Aveline asked. A copy of your evidence, nothing more. I'll ensure it reaches people who can't be silenced or bought off. In exchange, ... single quote. Sinclair reached into her briefcase again and removed a small vial containing an amber liquid, the most advanced version of the stabilizing compound for NDS, developed 3 months ago by my research team before I left. Liam stared at the vial, hope and suspicion warring within him. How do we know this isn't another trick? You don't, Sinclair acknowledged, but I know about Maya and Kellen. I have a grandson with NDS. That's why I joined Prometheus in the first place, to find a cure. Her composed facade cracked slightly, revealing genuine emotion beneath. This formula is 30% more effective than the one you stole last night. It won't just stabilize the condition, it can partially reverse some of the damage. Before either could respond, Liam's phone rang, Dr. Chun calling. He answered immediately, putting it on speak. We have a problem, Chun said without preamble, her voice tight with worry. The formula isn't working as expected. There's a component missing or altered. I can't synthesize a stable version. Liam's blood ran cold. What are you saying? The data was corrupted, Chun explained. Deliberately, I think. A safeguard to prevent exactly what we're trying to do. I need the original research notes, not just the formula. Without them, I can't produce a viable treatment. As Chun continued explaining the technical details, Sinclair calmly removed a USB drive from her pocket and placed it on the table between them. The complete research notes, she said quietly, including detailed synthesis protocols for the advanced formula. Liam and Aveline stared at her, then at each other, faced with another impossible choice in a week full of them. Trust this stranger, this self-proclaimed whistleblower, or watch Maya and Kellen deteriorate while Chun struggled to reverse engineer a solution. Time is running out, Sinclair reminded them gently. For your daughter, for your brother, and for all the other patients who could benefit from this treatment. With a decisive movement, Aveline reached for the USB drive. We'll make copies of our evidence for you. But if this is a trick, ... it isn't, Sinclair assured her. We're on the same side, as they sealed their new alliance. None of them noticed the hospital security camera swiveling silently to focus on their table, its feed being monitored thousands of miles away by the very people Sinclair was trying to expose. 3 months later, Liam sat in a sun-dappled corner of Greenwich Memorial Hospital's rehabilitation garden, watching Maya navigate the walking course. Her steps were measured but steady, each one a small victory against the disease that had nearly claimed her. The tremors in her hands had diminished significant, not gone completely, but controlled enough that she could draw again without frustration. Dr. Chun walked beside her, clipboard in hand, occasionally offering encouragement or minor adjustments to Maya's technique. The advanced stabilization formula Dr. Sinclair had provided worked beyond their most optimistic expectations. Not only had it halted the progression of the neural degeneration, but it had partially reversed some of the damage enough to give Maya back her childhood. She's doing amazingly well, Aveline said, joining Liam on the bench. She handed him a coffee, her fingers brushing his in a gesture that had become comfortably familiar. Chun says her neural regeneration markers are off the charts. Better than Kellen's? Liam asked. Aveline nodded, her expression a complex mixture of joy and lingering concern. Maya's younger. Her neural plasticity gives her an advantage. She watched as Maya successfully completed a section of balance beam, but Kellen's making progress too. He spoke 3 complete sentences this morning without pausing. The past 3 months had transformed both their lives in ways neither could have imagined. The evidence they had provided to both Agent Ramirez and Dr. Sinclair had detonated like a bomb in the highest levels of government and industry. The congressional hearings had dominated headlines for weeks. Project Prometheus had been exposed, its military backers forced to resign amid public outcry. Harrison Wells and Dr. Finch faced multiple federal charges, including fraud, conspiracy, and criminal negligence, resulting in death. 3 trial participants had died under their care before the scheme was uncovered. Langford Industries had survived survived, but not unscathed. The board had been dissolved, replaced by an interim leadership team that Aveline now headed with a mandate for complete reform. The company's focus had shifted entirely to rare disease treatments, with the NDS stabilizing formula as its flagship product provided at cost to all patients, regardless of their ability to pay. I had a call from Ramirez this morning, Liam said, watching Maya attempt a more challenging obstacle. Wells is negotiating a plea deal. He's offering testimony against everyone involved, including some very high-ranking officials at the Pentagon. Saving his own skin, Aveline remarked with distaste. Yes, but his testimony will help make sure this can't happen again. Liam hesitated, then added, Ramirez also said Graves is being released from the rehabilitation center next week. His physical therapy is complete. Aveline's face brightened. That's wonderful news. I've been thinking about offering him a position heading our new corporate ethics division. Someone who took a bullet to do the right thing seems like the perfect choice. They fell into a comfortable silence, watching Maya laugh as she successfully navigated a series of stepping stones. The sound of her laughter, once so rare during her illness, now filled their days again. The board meeting is tomorrow, Aveline said after a while. Her tone deliberately casual, though Liam could sense the tension beneath. They'll be voting on the new corporate charter. Are you nervous? A little, she admitted. It's a radical restructuring. Some of the shareholders are resistant to the idea of a pharmaceutical company that prioritizes patient outcomes over profit margins. If anyone can convince them, it's you, she smiled, the compliment warming her. Over the past months, as they had fought side by side for their loved ones and for justice, the barriers between them had gradually dissolved. CEO and Janitor had become irrelevant labels, replaced by a partnership built on mutual respect and deepening affection. Actually, Aveline continued, there's another matter the board will be voting on tomorrow. She turned to face him directly. The creation of a new position, Director of Facilities Integrity and Safety. Liam raised an eyebrow. Sounds important. It is. The person in this role would be responsible for ensuring that every aspect of our facilities, from research labs to administrative offices, meets not just regulatory standards but ethical ones. They'd have authority to access any area, review any protocol, question any process. She paused. I'm hoping you'll consider taking the job. Liam stared at her, momentarily speechless. Me? I'm a janitor, Aveline. No, she corrected gently. You're the man who saved my brother's life, who exposed a conspiracy that would have harmed countless people, who proved that integrity is more valuable than all the advanced degrees and executive titles in the world. Her hand found his. Besides, no one knows those buildings better than you do. Every corner, every room, every secret. Before Liam could respond, Maya called out to them, waving excitedly. Daddy! Ems! Aveline, what's this? They turned to see her attempt a challenging balance exercise. Her tongue caught between her teeth in concentration. She wobbled slightly but recovered, completing the sequence with determined precision. Pride swelled in Liam's chest as he applauded her achievement. I've been thinking, Maya said as she joined them on the bench, slightly breathless from exertion. Since we spend so much time with Ems, Aveline and Emsar. Kellen now, maybe we should all live together. It would be easier. Liam choked slightly on his coffee. Maya, that's actually... Aveline interrupted smoothly. I've been thinking something similar. She met Liam's startled gaze with a soft smile. The Greenwich house is far too large for just Kellen and me, and your apartment ... is tiny. Maya supplied helpfully, and the elevator breaks all the time, which makes Kellen's therapy harder. Liam looked between them, suddenly realizing this was a coordinated ambush. Have you two been plotting behind my back? Maya giggled. Maybe a little. Mrs. Henderson says it makes perfect sense. She says you two look at each other the way people in love do. Now it was Aveline's turn to look flustered, a blush creeping up her neck. Mrs. Henderson is very observant, she managed, not quite meeting Liam's eyes. The moment was saved by Dr. Chun approaching with her clipboard. Maya's final assessment scores are excellent, she reported. I'd like to reduce her treatments to once weekly rather than 3 times. And the home exercises are working wonderfully. As Chun outlined the new treatment schedule, Liam found his thoughts drifting. So much had changed in such a short time. His daughter was healing. He had been offered a position that would transform his professional life, and Aveline, the woman who had once been the untouchable CEO, was now suggesting they share a home. Her eyes holding promises neither had yet found the courage to voice aloud. Later that evening, as the 4 of them shared dinner in Kellen's hospital room, a ritual they had established weeks ago, Liam watched the easy interaction between Maya and the Langfords. His daughter was helping Kellen with his speech exercises, patiently waiting as he formed each word, celebrating his successes with unrestrained enthusiasm. Aveline moved to stand beside Liam at the window, both of them observing the scene with quiet content. She asked me something interesting today, Aveline said softly, when I was helping her with her physical therapy. Was that? She asked if it would be okay to call me Mom sometime. Aveline's voice trembled slightly. Not right away, she clarified, but someday when it felt right. Liam's heart constricted with a complex mixture of emotions, a bittersweet ache for his late wife, and a surge of gratitude for the woman beside him who had opened her heart to his child. What did you tell her? he asked. I told her it would be the greatest honor of my life, Aveline answered simply, but that it would be up to you. Liam turned to face her fully. 3 months ago, you offered me $50,000 to walk away and forget what I'd discovered. She flinched slightly at the memory. That wasn't me. That was Finch. I know, he assured her, but imagine if I'd taken it. Imagine if I'd chosen the money instead of the thought hung between them. A ghostly alternate reality where they remained strangers on opposite sides of a vast divide, where Maya and Kellen continued to deteriorate while a dangerous drug was developed for profit and military advantage. You didn't take it, Aveline said softly. That's why we're here now. Single quotes from across the room. Maya's delighted laugh rang out as Kellen successfully completed a difficult phrase. The sound was pure joy, untainted by fear or pain, the laugh of a child who no longer lived under a death sentence. That laugh, Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. That's worth more than any amount of money anyone could ever offer. Aveline's hand found his, their fingers intertwining with the ease of puzzle pieces finding their match. When you walked into that boardroom and refused the bribe, you changed everything. Not just for Maya and Kellen, but for me, for us. Liam thought of the long journey that had brought them here, from janitor and CEO, separated by wealth and status, to partners united by love and purpose. The road ahead would not be easy. Maya and Kellen still faced challenges in their recovery. The corporate transformation Aveline envisioned would meet resistance. The full consequences of exposing Project Prometheus had yet to unfold. But looking at their makeshift family gathered in the hospital room, Maya teaching Kellen to draw despite his trembling hands, Aveline's fingers warm and steady in his own, Liam knew with absolute certainty that they would face whatever came next together. So he said, turning back to Aveline with a smile, tell me more about this house in Greenwich. Her eyes lit up, hope and future plans dancing in their depths. Well, it has a studio perfect for Maya's art, and extensive gardens where Kellen continue his physical therapy. And ... single quotes, she hesitated, then continued more softly. A master suite with a view of the sunrise that I've been watching alone for far too long. Liam's answer was a gentle kiss, a promise sealed in the golden evening light as their shadows merged into one on the hospital room wall. The janitor and the CEO, who had discovered that the most valuable currency wasn't money or power, but the courage to stand for truth when it mattered most.